Hey everyone, it's Mike Hambright with Flipner.com. Welcome back for another exciting expert interview show where I interview great guests from across the real estate investing industry to help you learn and inspire you. And I used to say from across the country, but today we're talking with our guest is in Panama. It's going to be a really interesting topic, so stick with us. For today's show, I'm joined by David Sewell. David is an expert in offshore wealth management and international real estate investing, and he's the managing director of the International Coffee Farms Corporation. If you follow this show, today's episode is going to be different than anything else we've talked about before. In fact, I realized that I don't think we've ever talked about international real estate investing before at all. We've tended to focus on the U.S. and I guess kind of be small-minded. But even more interesting, we're going to talk about a major project, or primarily what David's focus is today, is owning parcels of land within specialty coffee farms in Panama. Very interesting topic. Very unique, and I hope to make this as interesting as possible for you, and I know David's going to. So it's going to be an exciting show, an interesting conversation, and I'm already feeling about as inside of the box and simple with everything I've accomplished over the years as you can get by primarily wholesaling and rehabbing single-family houses in America. So we're going to get outside of the box a little bit today. And if you are active in watching the show, we know there's a lot of ways to make money in real estate investing, and this is just one more of them. So today we're going to meet David Sewell, and we're going to talk about how to invest in coffee farms. Before we get started, though, let's take a moment to recognize our featured sponsors. RealtyMogul.com is an online marketplace for real estate investing, connecting borrowers and capital from accredited and institutional investors. Get a rehab loan fast and close in as little as 10 days with rates starting as low as 9%. For more information, call 888-296-1697. B2R Finance makes loans tailored specifically for rental investors. They can help you unlock equity from existing properties so you can get cash out to grow your rental portfolio. That's huge and opens up lots of opportunities previously not available to rental investors. Need a loan? Call 855-819-4412 or visit b2rfinance.com today. AceBusinessFunding.com can help you get up to $150,000 in revolving credit lines to fund your business with rates as low as 0% for the first 12 to 18 months. Use the funds for startup costs, marketing, inventory, or almost anything your business needs. If you can't get funding, you don't pay a dime. Get funds for your business today at AceBusinessFunding.com. We'd also like to thank Specialized IRA Services, National Real Estate Insurance Group, and VirtualStaffNow.com. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of Flipner.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hey, David, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Mike. Pleased to be here.
Glad to have you here. I'm excited about this topic because it's so unique and so interesting. And, you know, I say all the time, there's a lot of ways to make money in real estate investing. But until we kind of signed you up and got ready for the show today, that I realized that there's a ton of ways that we've never even talked about on the show. So I'm excited to have you here to talk about something that's very unique.
It's a unique strategy to diversify away from tenants, toilets, and troubles into trees.
Yeah, awesome. Well, David, I'm really excited to get into this topic. Maybe you could take a few minutes, and I know you have a really rich background in a number of things. You're a Canadian living in Panama and have a really rich background in the military and other things like that. Maybe you could just give us your background and share how you got started and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Started in the prairies in Saskatchewan in Canada. Got an undergraduate degree in biology, which back in those days was useful, but hasn't been very much use these days to me because it was 1970. Joined the Navy from the prairies and spent 12 years as a combat officer in a destroyer in the Royal Canadian Navy. And so today I want to give a quick shout out to all the veterans around the world, because as we're recording today on Veterans Day in the U.S. and Remembrance Day elsewhere, thanks for your service and thanks for your sacrifices.
Absolutely.
Veterans everywhere in the world. From the Navy, I did an MBA in corporate finance and marketing. Went on through the corporate world for quite a few years in banking and ended up in the investment industry in venture capital. Spent quite a few years in Canada, left there in 1989 looking for warmer weather and lower taxes. Found both. Went through Mexico, Did a little bit of real estate work there, realized it wasn't quite the right place, tried Costa Rica for 7 or 8 years. It didn't continue to be as good as it was, moved on, tried Argentina, found out that Argentina has snow, and I'd overcorrected, so I turned around and came back north and ended up in Panama. My wife and I and our 2 cats have been here now for 9 years.
Okay. Awesome. And all that time when you were traveling around, were you primarily focused on real estate opportunities, or were you doing other things?
Mexico and Costa Rica were both real estate opportunities.
Okay.
I have an extensive background in the 80s in the satellite communications and cable television business. So Argentina, I did some contracting work down there for a year.
Okay.
Mostly real estate.
Okay. And I know you also are the owner of the Remax franchise in Panama as well. Is that right?
Yes, we have a Remax franchise in Boquete, Panama, where we are now here, and also in a small town called David, Panama, which is 30 minutes away.
Okay. Awesome. Well, this is such an interesting topic. I'm trying to think of where to get started here. So maybe you could just kind of talk about maybe how you kind of made a transition into coffee farming, and then the opportunity of really what you're running is kind of a turnkey operation where folks can buy land and then you have management solutions in place. But maybe you could talk about kind of how that came about, I guess.
What happened was in the summer of 2012, I was consulting. I retired in 2007 and wasn't really doing that much, but I was doing some consulting work. And I came across a group of people at a trade show or a conference, investment conference in Colombia, that were trying to finance an operation to acquire coffee farms. My background being venture capital, I was interested in helping them. We couldn't come to terms on what they wanted to do and how they wanted to structure it, but we did come to terms on an idea that would meet the needs of people who are looking for offshore investments, offshore real hard assets with income and turnkey management, sort of a finite group of people. We created this business plan. If you could own your own parcel of an operating coffee farm offshore and it was turnkey managed for you and the price was low enough to be acceptable to most people and it had an average annual income that was reasonable over a very long term, would you be interested? And that's what we did. We structured an opportunity where people can own deeded parcels of offshore real estate, is really what it is. Yeah. That worked out very well. And we ended up with somewhere in the order of 160 owners owning 600 plus parcels of 3 coffee farms in Colombia.
Okay.
The owners of that operation decided to no longer acquire farms, just to operate the ones they had. So my partner Darren and I decided that we would do the same thing here in Panama.
Okay.
The business model is exactly the same, and it's just applied differently in a niche in coffee in Panama, which is somewhat different than Colombia's coffee.
Right. It's interesting, just the innovation that's taken place in real estate, which I guess models like this, turnkey and things like that, have been around for a long time. They've, especially turnkey operations and rental properties in the U.S., have been around for probably a long time, but they're kind of coming of age because real estate is looked at as more of a Main Street asset class now than, or even an institutional, I guess, asset class than it was in the past. But if you kind of compare it to, the Ubers of the world and all this innovation that's happened to do something that we've already been doing for a long time, just done differently. And like if you consider things like crowdfunding and how people are able to do small pieces of things that they can bite off, but are still significant to them, this is really an interesting opportunity. And for somebody that spends hundreds of dollars a month at Starbucks, it's interesting, even if it's not necessarily that my coffee at Starbucks is coming from your farm in Panama, but just the obsession that people have with coffee in America, I think that's something that would naturally be interesting to them.
It's very interesting, and the specialty coffee craze is continuing to grow and grow, and people are acquiring more and more quality coffee and more knowledge. The more people are interested in single origin traceable coffee, knowing the story behind the cup that you're drinking, mind paying $4 for it or whatever. What we do in the disruptive business practices that I like to be part of, which change environments completely, and as you mentioned, the real estate industry is doing that, allows us to be able to put a socially sustainable package together where 20% of the gross operating profits of the company, for example, are put into a pool to make the lives of the workers a lot better. Facts are that 5 cents of that $4 cup of coffee that you get every morning goes to the farmer, and that's not acceptable. So these business practices that we're putting into place are environmentally sustainable, they're economically sustainable, we make money doing it, but they're also socially sustainable, where we can and are day by day right here in Boquete improving the lives of the native Indian Panamanian farmers who do all the work for our parcel owners who are profiting thereby. So
Sure.
It's sharing the wealth.
Sure. So, David, maybe if you could kind of talk about how the parcel system works and what some typical owners are like. Like, these are not necessarily people that have no experience in real estate investing. I think we talked about beforehand, there's a lot of people that own lots of rentals and lots of doors, and this is just another investing opportunity that they look at. But maybe you could kind of start by saying the concept of you have a farm and then you segment it into plots. Is that right?
Yeah, what people are taking advantage of is our boots on the ground. We're here all the time. We know the industry, we know the locale, we know the people, and we also know the coffee farming business. But what we do is we work hard to acquire farms that are appropriate for what we're trying to do. They're generally underperforming commercial coffee farms, often owned by a family that's an old man that's been running the farm for 50 years or 40 years or 30 years. He's 75 or 80. His kids are not interested in grubbing around the dirt anymore in 2015. They're off in Miami or Panama City. They need to sell. We're acquiring those farms. They're not very easy to acquire. We can balance the farm, the location, the altitude, the soil, and the price, then we can acquire a farm. Once we do that, we subdivide it into 2,000 square meter or half acre individual parcels.
Okay.
And then those are offered to people who want to participate in an active operating coffee farm. So that's our strategy.
Okay. And the way the operation works is that I assume the parcels end up being effectively shares in the overall operation. It's not like the lot right next to you performed better because the soil was a little better there, or something. It's
not necessarily shares in the entire operation. It's deeded property. So the individual owner has a deed in their own name. So it's your real estate to do what you wish. But we restrict you to do that because we don't want somebody selling a half acre parcel in the middle of our coffee farm to a Chinese sock manufacturer. So we try to restrict that a little bit, but we do pool the revenues and we do pool the expenses across the entire farm. So it really is irrelevant to you which plot you have vis-a-vis your income from the coffee.
Okay. And maybe just for some context here, I already know the answer to this myself, but I think people will be curious of this because we talked about it beforehand, is what is the typical, if you buy a half acre plot, and we're just on this show, I don't think we have the time or should get into all of the returns and stuff like that. If folks want to learn more about it, they can contact you. But just to give some perspective, a half acre plot is about how big of a typical investment if somebody was wanted to buy in and kind of get started?
Currently, you can get started for $18,000.
Okay. So pretty reasonable.
Very reasonable. And the average owner is different than my venture capital career, which was largely populated by guys my age and older. We have a lot of young people that are very interested in coming offshore themselves personally, maybe not this year, but maybe in 5 years. We have people in their 30s and 40s that are interested in retiring early. We have older guys like me too that are just passively investing with capital, but a lot of interesting young people that have got some amazing backgrounds in the real estate business in the United States, and they continue to amaze me at 25 years old and 23 years old, and they have 40 doors or 80 doors, and they're branching out. It's an amazing group of people. We have this tour coming up this weekend where 14 people are coming to spend 3 days with us to kick the trees, as we call it. And we have as young as a 20-year-old who owns his own bakery in the U.S. and as old a fellow as passive investors and way up in his mid-70s. And everybody in between. So it's a very cool group of
Yeah, that's an
people.
interesting concept of being able to kind of visit your farm. I mean, you've got that land there, and I think you probably have some people that just like, I'm going to put some money down there. I don't ever want to. This is how I am with my houses. Like, I don't ever want to go there again. I've got a property manager that takes care of it, and I don't even want to know. I don't want to know, is the grass too long? Is there a shingle that's out of place? I don't want to. I don't even want to know. I'm sure you have a mixture of those, and some people that think the interesting part is getting engaged and coming to check out the farm and the operation and kind of being a part of that. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely, totally true. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have people that just invest, and we have people that are coming here, and because of our boots on the ground approach, where we can help them do other things besides just be a passive investor in a coffee farm or a parcel owner, we can help get offshore. We've them established financially offshore, getting them residency visas to live here in Panama with a work permit and bank accounts and various other things. And there's a large group of people that are dynamically involved in diversifying themselves away from one currency or one country.
Yeah, but Panama, the dollar is the primary currency in Panama, right? Or it's
Yes.
yeah,
That US dollar is still the currency in Panama.
right. You say still as if that may be changing soon. We don't have to get into that.
Well, there's speculation, but nobody
Sure.
knows for sure. But the government here is printing an awful lot of their own $1 and $2 coins in the Royal Canadian Mint in Canada. So
Yeah.
one might think that they're planning for something in the future.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about some of the obstacles that you have to overcome for people that are interested in this? Like, I'll just kind of throw a few things out there. The fear of international investing at all, because a lot of folks that might be interested in this would have some fears of, doing that at all. And then
Fear
things like
of
some of the
the
risks involved, which are not just currency risks, but international exposure, which obviously could be a good thing as well. And just, I guess, what are some of the kind of typical risks that people think about when they hear this? Like, it's interesting, but what about this, and this?
Well, it's the fear of the unknown. I mean, the fear of losing their money, obviously. They don't know us. So we invite everybody to come anytime you want. If you're here as a tourist and you want to come and visit, or if you want to make a special trip, we'll give you a private tour. You can come and do whatever you like, take as long as you want to understand the opportunity. People are unfamiliar with offshore. Some people don't have a passport, haven't been too far away from their home state, and they need to get their head wrapped around having some real estate somewhere else that's in a completely different country. But Panama is a fairly friendly, and as I call it, we speak at investment conferences and other places, it's a safe halfway house for Americans.
Sure.
It's quite comfortable here. It's not very far away. The airport is one of the largest in Latin America. The currency is the U.S. dollar. Everything's in pounds and feet and inches, and so you can talk language. English is well spoken.
Yeah.
No currency risk because it's the U.S. dollar. So people can come offshore to Panama more easily than if they were going to some esoteric country you can't even spell somewhere in the rest of the world.
Right, for sure.
So it's fairly easy to acclimatize people to what's going on here.
Okay. And in Panama, do you actually? I know you have some restrictions in terms of somebody can't sell it to a Chinese stock manufacturer, but can you actually own dirt in Panama as a
Yes.
U.S. citizen? I know some countries you have land leases and things like that, but
None of that applies here. You have deeded title property ownership rights,
okay.
same as every other Panamanian here. The only one restriction is that as a foreigner, you're not allowed to own land within 10 kilometers of an international border. So that would be on the west. That would be the border in Costa Rica, and on the east in Colombia. But that's not a restriction.
Not a big deal, yeah. So talk about the kind of the operation. So we talked about it at a high level. You own a coffee farm. I know that you have a lot of social sustainability things in place, which sounds really interesting. And then I guess talk about kind of the word specialty, what that really means, specialty coffee versus non-specialty coffee.
We acquire farms that are commercial coffee, and that's the stuff that is in the Folgers can, the things you see on the store shelf,
Okay.
not the packages you pay $6, $8, $9, $10, $15, $20 a pound for. That's what's specialty coffee, quote unquote.
Sure.
Specialty coffee is designed by the Specialty Coffee Association of America, SCAA. Very stringent rules and regulations as to what is encompassed by the term specialty, to do with fragrance and aroma and body and acidity and flavor, and 10 or 12 different criterion that are necessary to become specialty coffee. Long story short, you sip it and splurt it and cup it and taste it and do all that stuff by Q graders who are professionally trained people to do this. They rank the coffee, give it points, like wine still does now, and the Spectator did 15 years ago. Coffee now does that, gives it a number. Anything over 80 out of the maximum of 100 points is specialty coffee.
Okay.
And really, really good coffee, 84 and 86 points, you're in the top 3%. I've never seen a coffee grade higher than 92 yet, and so some pretty special coffees at 84 and 86 points.
Okay, and then just kind of going along the same theme as wines, I guess. Do you, in terms of branding and packaging, I mean, are you selling that to somebody that's rebranding it, or do you sell your own brands or kind of build your own brands? How does that work?
Funny you should ask. Just as the business plan is structured to sell green coffee internationally. So by definition, mainly roasters and end users that would do a roaster in Wichita, Kansas might buy 30,000 pounds, and he would then roast it to the profiles of his 40 or 50 customers, the restaurants and the hotels and the hospital and various people. So that's the wholesale market into the roasting environment, where the traceability and the single origin is extremely important, because they're going to tell the story of the coffee roasted to the profile of the customer.
Right.
But we also will have just cupped our first harvest of coffee this year, and in fact it was just yesterday, and we have put a brand on that coffee, and we're going to give it away, of course, to our tour attendees who are coming this weekend from all over the U.S. to test the brand, and I would think by this time next year we'll also have a roasted and or beans and ground coffee brand as well. But the basic business opportunity right now is selling green coffee to people that really know what they're doing in the roasting business.
Sure.
Worldwide.
Now, and would you say it's probably, I guess it's all over the board, but in terms of people that are investing in your farms, do they tend to be somebody that buys one plot because they want to dip their toe in the water and say they're involved with that, or is it people that have kind of insatiable appetites that want to buy large chunks of farms because they see this as not just a neat thing to do, but I want to own, this is a significant part of my kind of investing portfolio?
We have everybody from the beginning of one parcel person who's never going to go much further because of capital constraints or personal concerns, all the way up to people that own a dozen and 15 parcels. The average seems to be about 3 parcels right now per person, mathematically over top of it all.
Okay.
Just people using their IRAs, and they're putting it in their self-directed IRAs and putting it away for a long time. It's a legacy investment. It really isn't something you really want to contemplate selling. If year 10 comes true and everything we say is going to happen happens, and the industry remains growing the way we say it's going to do, which we expect it to, you're going to see high double-digit returons annually. I mean, and I can't see anybody wanting to not give that to their kids.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Now, can you talk a little bit about, I guess, some of the other risks that we haven't talked about in terms of commodity prices and coffee going up or down? Some of the things that are kind of related more to the coffee industry.
The coffee price is almost.
By the way, I waited for every morning. I've never shared this before. I go to Starbucks by my house. I drop my son off at school, and I pick my wife and I up coffee. It's kind of our morning ritual, and the line is always insane at Starbucks, even the drive-through line, which is crazy. So that would tell me, and just of course my limited world and it's very common to go to a Starbucks and there's a line out the door or whatever. So it would seem that there's plenty of demand, but I know there's a lot more. Starbucks isn't the entire coffee industry, so I realize that. But just trying to better understand that part of the risk of the commodity industry, I guess.
The beauty of being specialty coffee is we disconnect ourselves from commodity industry.
Sure.
Commodity industries, you can see it on Bloomberg every morning on the tape on the bottom, and you can see coffee there, and it's $1.20 a pound, $1.30 a pound. It could be as high as $3. It's been as low as 70 cents, and it varies because it's a commodity. That's commercial coffee, not specialty coffee. The demand and supply relationship, even with commercial coffee at $1.20 a pound, it costs $1.60 or more to make it, so it's a bad business. Specialty coffee is disconnected from that because of the supply and demand. The demand is immense, as you know, and the specialty coffee sector of the market is growing rapidly, 20% a year or more. 1 in every 2 cups of coffee that's drunk nowadays in the U.S. is specialty coffee. So the demand is high and the supply isn't. The issue is the supply varies by El Nino, La Nina, the weather, the location where you're doing it, and how much specialty coffee can be produced. And there isn't enough by a long shot.
Okay.
So the supply is really solid in specialty.
That's great. And talk about the social sustainability part of your model. We talked about that a little bit before we started the show, and thought that was fascinating. So can you kind of explain to us, that part of it and the importance of that part of it?
Right off the top, as I said when we discussed this earlier, 5 cents of your $4 cup of coffee is what is attributable to the coffee farmer in Latin America. The millions of people that are eking out a living making the coffee that everybody's drinking at $4 a cup is unacceptable. That process is just not right. We need to disrupt this business practice in such a fashion that we can deliver more to the people who are helping our parcel owners, for example, profit by their ownership, and more importantly, live a better life. And so we take right off the top 20% of the profits of the company right after we pay the direct farm operating expenses. Before anybody else gets a share, the farmers get 20%. That goes to paying the Social Security, paying a higher wage, giving them a pension when they're finished, instead of farming them out to the rocking chair on the terrazza of a concrete building and with $1 a day in their pocket. Pensions, more clothes, better food, better living conditions, changing the unacceptable living conditions that most of these farms are left in to North American standards, with septic tanks, running water, and flush toilets and showers and things like that, so they can dress properly while they're working. They're using power equipment instead of hand machetes. It's more efficient for us. It's better, easier life for them. They wear goggles and they wear masks when they're spraying, and they do all these kind of things. Sure. That social sustainability comes out from the top. After that's done and they're taken care of, then if the distributions, if any, are taken care of after that. So we're all in this together. The parcel owner, International Coffee Farms, and all of us, and all the workers. So we're all on the same page.
That's great. That's great. It's really interesting. One question I had, David, is about leverage. So obviously a big part of real estate investing, certainly here in the States, is leverage, the ability to kind of lever up your investments. And, it sounds like an individual plot is a relatively small investment, but given that it's international, and a lot of folks that are maybe listening to the show, if they have access to capital, are using U.S.-based lenders probably. Are folks able to kind of lever those investments at all, or is it pretty much just cash transactions?
There would be no leverage. No, it's a cash transaction.
Sure.
And there's no way to leverage it here that I'm aware of at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, David, this is a really fascinating.
It's safe.
Yeah.
That way there's no banker looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, true. David, this has really been fascinating, and we're almost out of time here. First off, I want to ask, is there anything that we haven't covered yet that you want to share with everybody?
We invite people to come and see what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Kick the trees. Come on a private.
Have a cup of Joe.
Have a cup of Joe, if you like. A little hint about the brand name. The brand name that we're thinking about might have something to do with the words lava Java, because this is volcanic soil.
Okay.
And the two words go together nicely. So come and have a cup of Joe here. Kick the trees. If you're in town as a tourist, we're more than welcome, or we can arrange for you to come specially if you're interested. And we'll give you a private tour. We're running a group tour this weekend. We have another group tour coming in February or March. That information will be available on our website. So we'd just like to invite people to come and experience Panama, experience the life here in Boquete, a very cool mountain town up in the hills, running water, pine trees, nice temperature, eternal spring all the time. It's not a tropical hot climate. It's beautiful. We invite everybody to come on any one of the tours or anytime they want to come privately.
Great. Well, David, if folks wanted to learn more about your company, even the financial opportunity, or just more about some of the really interesting things you're doing, where would they go to learn more?
The best place to go is to the website, which is www.internationalcoffeefarms.com.
Awesome. Well, we'll add the link down below for folks that want to learn more. And I've got so many questions that are still going in my head. We're about out of time here. I may have to have you back for another show sometime to talk about this a little bit more.
Yeah, we could very easily have another session where we could just talk forever about just coffee operations.
Sure.
I mean, it's fun. It's really fun acquiring these farms, turning them around from somewhat of an abused farm to a very well-loved farm. And we are enjoying it immensely. There's a lot to learn about coffee. It's a fascinating subject. Go on forever and ever and ever. But just the operations of a coffee farm. We're building our own coffee farm, coffee processing mill right now, for example, a wet and dry mill to process our own coffee to add to the value of our coffee. Just that alone is an interesting topic. There's lots of
absolutely.
Very fun subject.
Well, again, we'll add a link down below to learn more about David and the coffee farm. And David, thanks for sharing your time with us today. Great to see you. Thanks for sharing this interesting kind of opportunity and just concept with us today.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
Great to see you too. Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit FlipNerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry. So get on over to FlipNerd.com.